The end in mind for me is that a student would be an on-mission, disciple-making leader wherever they land in life.
Have you ever felt like God was calling you to something more? Maybe you've sensed a nudge, a stirring that you can't quite put into words. That's what this podcast is all about. Here we share the story of God doing something new and powerful right here in Morehead, Kentucky. I'm Eli, and I'm excited to share this journey with you. In just a few minutes, you'll also hear from my friend Dylan Bjorklund, a minister, husband, father, and now church planter. He's stepping out in faith to follow God's call, and I think his story is going to inspire you. Before we jump in, I want to encourage you with these powerful words from Ephesians 3:20-21. Now to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power at work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations forever and ever. As you listen today, I want you to ask yourself, what might God want to do through you? You can do more than you imagine by his power for his glory. And maybe, just maybe, this episode will help you take that next step of obedience. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
So then, in order to accomplish that end goal, what does that discipleship, leadership development process need to look like?
This is the challenging thing. In some ways, I wonder if it's going to have to be different from semester to semester, class to class that comes in. I do think we are going to have to, in some way, have a base level of, especially if we're trying to create a foundation for these young men and women, depending on where they are in their faith, like understanding or knowing Bible basics, like I think we're going to have some kind of, for lack of a better word, system in place of like, hey, join us on whatever Sunday mornings, kind of Sunday school type mentality, or Wednesday nights or something, where we really are just laying out, and it's more teaching based, But I do think the method model is relational disciple making in groups of 3 to max 6, ideally 3 to 4, where we are going through certain content, and that helps lay a foundation. And those groups need to probably be gender-based too, males together, females together, because I think it's in those smaller groups that real transformation and life change takes place. It's so easy to sit in a classroom and it go here, but not change here. When you're sitting in everybody's facing forward and there's one guy talking. But when I'm sitting around in my living room with 3 other guys, and we are taking the scripture seriously, and I am, teaching. There's some learning and growing. I also me, who would be leading that group, or someone else would be leading that group, can know, do these other guys actually understand what I'm saying? I'm getting the information out, and that's what happens oftentimes in the classroom, right? The teacher knows they're getting the information out, but they don't always know if the student understands it. That's why, usually tests and quizzes and things like that happen in school, but you're not going to do that in the church environment, right? But you can, in a small group like this, of 3, 4 people, I can know whether someone's understanding what I'm saying because I've spent enough time with them, the way they're talking. The group's small enough, everyone's going to be talking, whether they're grasping it. But also, it's in those small groups that I said transformation really begins to take place, and you begin to see life change because you're holding people accountable. Because remember, the goal is not just to be some mental assent and adherent to Christianity who comes and sits in a pew on Sunday morning. It's to be a disciple who's radically transformed and changed. And so you're going to, in that small group, you're going to begin to see that kind of transformation because people are going to be more honest and open of what's going on in their life and things like that. So, um, I don't know that I have it figured out, Eli. I really don't. Because the way you and I were taught to do it, and the way we've been shown ministry is like, the Sunday school class or whatever. And I just don't know how much. The other thing is, I, I actually think leveraging, like even what we're doing right now, podcasts, like leveraging these kind of resources will be really important too. Like I
Yeah,
think that's this generation is spending a lot of time online and listening to podcasts and things like that. There's a reason why we're doing this, right?
hmm yeah,
I think leveraging some of these tools and resources would be good too.
for sure. If you were to ask me how Gen Z is formed today, I would say social media.
Yeah, yeah.
They are formed by what they consume in
Hmm.
small sound bites,
Yep.
and the accumulation of those sound bites, as they spend hours.
Hmm.
Hey, I say
Yeah.
me too.
Right, right.
And hours consuming this stuff, it forms us.
Yep.
I am seeing the same things where there is a desire for that authentic relationship, that
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
real environments where you can just be people with other
Hmm.
people.
Hmm.
That performance stuff is,
Hmm.
I think, exhausting and has
Hmm.
worn itself out. While at the same time, there's still that draw to
Hmm.
visually appealing things. And
Yeah.
you look at even what is out there in social media, a lot of it's not super polished,
No, it's not. No,
from
not anymore.
a studio. It is pull out your phone and, you
Hmm.
know, I'm sitting in my living room and I just start talking about whatever. So there's still that both
Yeah.
that lack
Yep.
of performance, but that visually appealing stuff that somehow still comes together with this generation.
Yep. Yep.
Kind
Yeah.
of leads us into the next question. What are some of the things that you see as distinct with Gen Z and how they are different from maybe us? Not being too far removed from them generationally, but there is a difference.
Yeah. This is interesting. So, what the iPhone came out in 2007? Is something like
I
that?
think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which we'd have been around high school, okay, going into high school, middle school, high school, okay, when that was just starting to come out, and even then, it doesn't mean every kid had one, right? And
No,
by I think by my senior a year in high school, most kids had one, maybe, and definitely in college.
maybe.
And social media was starting to ramp up. Like there was this thing at one point called MySpace, if anybody ever remember,
Yeah.
right? For Facebook. But anyways, so I say all that with millennials. We're millennials. Think about this with Gen Z when they were born. They had 100 likes on Facebook of their picture before their grandma or grandpa ever held them in their hands.
Mm,
Like it's
yeah.
uh, their entire lives have been online. You know what I mean? We've known the time. So we're kind of interesting generation because we've had both, right?
Hmm.
Um, and we're pretty tech savvy in some ways and all that kind of stuff. But this generation is like, and what's crazy is it's been handed to them since they were, I
Mm.
mean, really young, and it blows my mind sometimes when you look at a kid who's able to, a toddler who's able to operate an iPhone or something like that. It just
Yeah.
blows my
My
mind.
daughter is drawn every time she sees a screen,
Yeah.
whether there's anything on it or not. She
Yep.
knows
Yep.
a phone. She picks it up
Yes.
and she looks at
Yeah.
it. She's
Yeah.
10 months old,
Yeah.
you know.
Uh, I actually think I'm a little curmudgeon about that kind of stuff because a lot we don't really do screens or stuff like with our little ones. But Eliza, if our phone's sitting down on the table or something, she goes and picks it up, and then we'll be in the other room, come back. It's like, how did you get that unlocked? Like,
Hmm.
like it's locked, and I actually think Apple like made it to where I recognize the baby's face, and I'm just kidding. That's a little conspiracy theory
Uh-huh.
there. I'm just kidding. So I I don't know what all that means though for Gen Z, right? Like because they've been in this time where where they've never not known this.
Well, I think
But
it does help to explain some of that lack of performance because I
mhm,
think for me, I connect public with performance, right?
mhm,
Um, whereas for them, everything is public. There is
mhm,
no private.
yeah,
So that probably explains some of that lack of, because if you were performing all the time, you just can't keep up with it.
yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting because again I don't know the full extent of the implications of what that they've always been online. I just think that's interesting, and I think it is why in so many ways they desire something real and authentic because there is always like I mean this is the generation who had an entire year of their high school or elementary life just
Hmm. Yeah.
at home or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? And it's been a very interesting time for them, and then many of them too, about the time they were being born or so, there it have been the recession of 2008. Like there's been some interesting things. I mean, in their lifetime, in this short amount of lifetime. The other thing, obviously, in their lifetime is just the type of political divide. I mean, that has happened in the last 5 to maybe 8 years. That's just uh, an entrenchment in political ideology on both sides that has made things more hostile. And I think all of these are contributing factors in searching for something more transcendent and true, searching for something more real and authentic, and wanting to be a part of that. Uh, so I found this interesting, and uh, Dr. Schoaf and I were talking about this a little bit related to students. But someone else who I met on MSU's campus, he was a campus minister who's actually now moved on to another college. But he worked with athletes in action, and he said when he was first getting in, I think he spent maybe close to 20 years at MSU.
Hmm.
When he was first starting, he said, if I wanted to meet with someone, I would schedule it. Like meet with a student, I would schedule it and be like, "Hey, let's meet tomorrow at Starbucks, and
Yeah.
I'll buy you a cup of coffee," and they would show up. He said, "Right now with this generation, nope, you do not schedule." He said, I can throw out and say, "Hey, would you like to meet tomorrow at Starbucks?" And he said, "And I'll show up to Starbucks and they won't be there."
Mm.
He said, "But if I run into a kid while walking on campus and say, 'Hey, let's go to Starbucks right now,' they're going to do it." This makes a lot of sense to me. He said, that is because of like social anxiety. Um,
Yeah.
because if I ask them today to meet me for coffee tomorrow, now they have 24 hours to talk
Yeah.
themselves out of it and think about what am I going to say? What's he going to talk about? What's he going to ask me? Like all the video footage, if you will, of
Mm.
possibilities is going to run through their mind. Uh, but if you just do it in the moment, they don't have the time to think about it. And they're hungry for it. They know they want these relationships and all this kind of stuff, and they're gonna go for it.
Mm.
That's interesting about this. That's interesting about this generation. So I also, there's some other interesting things. I mean, their attention spans are shorter. Now that's probably true of all. That's probably now true of every generation because of
Yes.
online. I mean, you think about, you know, scrolling through, I think about Instagram reels or whatnot. I mean,
Yep.
it's like 3 seconds, and if they haven't caught your attention in 3 seconds, you're on to the next one, right?
Yep.
So there's some of that too. So it's just it's very very interesting. But I do to related to faith. Barna has said that this generation is the open generation. That's what they're calling them. Barna, the Christian research
Mm.
organization, they say that 77% are open to hear about Jesus, which is really high. And when you look at just what's coming out of this generation, they tend to be more conservative please not think that I'm equating political conservatism with biblical conservatism. I actually think they are not the same.
Mm.
But there are certainly some political issues that the Bible does speak about and speak to, uh, like the sanctity of human life and sexuality and things like that. But like even this last political election, like I think a lot of people were shocked that these first time voters um, voted more conservatively.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's also right now a hunger for, or in this generation of like, they're buying Bibles more,
Yeah.
uh, which is interesting because they can access a Bible on their phone,
Yep.
but they want to, they want the old school analog version, I guess, the printed version in their hands. Um, so and as I said earlier, they're the ones I've seen as we've worked with our church planning organization, have traveled to other churches for the campus who are trying to do what we're doing, but in other towns. Like show up, those college students are showing up with Bibles and notebooks and taking notes. Like it's like they're serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's definitely a hunger, and I think all of those other factors that we kind of talked about. Um, I think it is what's influencing that is because they are, you know, this is probably very a shallow way of saying it, but there's that Christian song is I've searched the world and it couldn't fill me.
Yep.
And I think in some ways this generation has searched the world.
Mm.
And they never and they didn't search the world by traveling the world, you know. They searched the world through their phone,
Mm-hmm.
and they've seen all these other ideas and whatnot, have been exposed to tons of things, and it's just like eh, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the truth of the gospel and where the transformation that Jesus brings is so appealing to them.
So you talked about even the idea of that social anxiety thing, maybe being a barrier to scheduling, time. So how do you then plan to navigate busy schedules, social anxiety? Um, Again, college students, you got the academic stress, right? There's always an assignment, always a exam coming up, class schedule, whatever. I have found with our young adults at our church, we have Bible study every Tuesday night, small group at our house. Our students love it, but it's also not top priority. If
Yeah.
there's a study session, they're going to go to the study session.
Right.
So how do you navigate all those things? Busy schedule, social anxiety, academic stress, shifting priorities. How do you plan as a minister to position yourselves to be able to minister through those things?
I don't know that I have a plan yet, but I do. That has been. I think that's a great question. It's been something on my mind, And to add to that layer, like one of the conversations that we've had was I was just mentioning the fellow who worked at MSU. He worked with athletes in action. So you talk about the complexity. Like add now to all of that someone who's practicing, every night or having to get up early in the morning, and then they're traveling on the weekends for games and things like that. And like, how do you reach? And I think this is where we have to move away from this idea that we've been in the church for a long time, which is come and see. We've operated with a mentality of come to us and see what we do, and it should. And we just think it should automatically be a priority in your life. And I believe it ought to be a priority in your life because it is the most important thing. But people who are far from God and don't have a relationship with Him don't think that, though, right? They ought to, but they don't. So I think we've got to flip it on our head. And I've actually been, I don't know when it was, but I was thinking about, for a while, I was thinking about this motto. It was like, it's been this motto of like, come and see, like come to Sunday morning, see what we do, see if you want to be a part of it. And I'm like, what if we flip that on its head and we're a church that says, go and be, like go to where people are at and be a follower of Jesus. But so I think an over programmed church structure will not be successful with college students. I think having events, will be great, and almost kind of last minute events too, and you know what I mean, just showing up, and because of that social anxiety thing you were talking about. But I think those kind of things will be helpful to just get to know people. But this is where I think, again, those small relational disciple making groups allow for more of that flexibility. Because ideally, in that, you'd have one person who's kind of the discipler, someone who's shadowing under the discipler, and then two other people, one of whom may be lost or whatnot, but that they, at least the three, and maybe not the discipler as such, but the three be pretty closely connected, friends even, and all that kind of stuff. Then there's more flexibility in that, right? So I had a disciple making group when I was at Christview. And there was four of us. Now we met on Monday nights, but there were times where it's like, okay, we need to change what we're doing this week, and it was small enough to be able to do that, because somebody had something coming up or whatever it is, or hey, I can't be there, I'm on the road, but I'll call in, you know what I mean? So we had some like flexibility. So I think moving away from the over program thing. We also, we've been talking to a young couple who are campus ministers up at another college. They've, interestingly enough, they've listened to this podcast and have kind of been considering and praying about coming to Morehead and working with us. And so the cool thing is they've had experience on a college university in another town from where nothing existed and getting it up and running. So which is kind of cool. It's exciting. And I think there'll be certainly things that they have done up there that will apply down here. Obviously, it's a new town, new place. There'll be some hurdles still to jump over. But one of the things they said as we were talking about this, which I thought was good, is they said there's almost like a 4 kind of steps method, so to speak, that they did to help engage people. And that was they did events on their turf. They did it at their kind of event on their turf. So meaning I show up and do spike ball on campus in the quad, right? Their event, their turf. And then the next one was our event on their turf, which, may be like we're doing I don't know, service event of some kind. I don't know, whatever you want to be. But we're going to be on campus doing it, okay? Or we're going to do a pancake breakfast and we're going to, serve students, but it's going to be there. The next one is their event on our turf, okay? So now getting off campus, but you're going to have their kind of thing, right? The next thing is our event on our turf. So what you see in that is this slow thing where there's growing and comfortability, and it tears down some of that social anxiety and all that kind of thing. And here's the reality, Eli, about priorities is priority, as you said, they're always shifting and always changing. But because I think we are so hungry for relationships, I think if we can truly love, show people we care, it is going to become a priority for them. Like all of a sudden, like it's not a matter of like, okay, they're doing this thing tonight, I kind of need to go. It's like, no, I'm going. Like these are my people, right? I'm going to be there. And that kind of pattern that I just laid out there, it helps with that. Like it's slow, but you're spending that time with them and developing relationships. So I thought that was really good. I didn't come up with that, but I thought that was really, really good. But you're right. I mean, that's the other thing. We talk about a student being with us for 4 years. That's not true. Because how many students transfer out? You know what I mean, or transfer in? They may be there for a semester. So we do have to be. We're going to have to be innovative and flexible and changing. And like I said, it's probably going to look different every semester. Honestly, in some ways from person to person. So
anything else before we close, Dylan?
I'd challenge first, anyone who is in or near a college town, like, be thinking about what can we do? What can we do? Because, uh, Jesus says, go out into all the world and make disciples. And a college is really a place where God brings the world to you.
Mm.
And he does that with students across your state. He does it with students across the U.S. But also, I am confident your college probably has an international student population as well. It doesn't have to be over-programmed, and you don't have to get a bunch of volunteers and all these things and think big. Just start small. Just think small. See, everybody's talking about the college campus thing, right? Because we've seen, whether it be down in Arkansas or Ohio State, like we've seen these revivals happen, right?
Yeah.
That's what we've been calling them, at least, is these revivals happening. Or Asbury, it's been a couple years back now, and there there's something stirring with this next generation. So I just encourage you, if you're in or around a college campus, figure out, is there something we can do? Partner with a something that already exists on campus, a campus ministry. Figure out, is it adopting a student for the semester? Just you and your family decide, you know what? We're going to reach out to the campus minister and just say, hey, do you got one student who just needs the extra attention and love? We want to have them over to our house, during the week or on weekends, and, all those kind of things. I just pour in, build those relationships. I think it makes a huge, huge difference, and they're hungry for it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Morecast. If you would like to find out more about the church plant happening in Morehead, Kentucky, you can check out foothillsmorehead.org.